So I'll call the meeting to order. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the June 2021 board meeting for the Lents Neighborhood Association. And just a reminder, this meeting is open to the public, but participation is by board invitation only. This is a meeting for the purpose of conducting LNA board business. Our general membership meetings are typically on the fourth Tuesday of every month. With that, the agenda is posted in the chat. I can also go ahead and share my screen with the agenda. Just to kind of give everyone an overview of what we will be discussing tonight. So we're going to approve minutes. We're going to talk about bylaws. We're going to set the agenda for the next meeting. We're going to talk about upcoming LNA elections, and then we will have some quick committee updates. Before we dive into the business, I wanted to note that our land use chair, Jennifer Breedlove, has stepped down. And we want to thank her for her service and all of the amazing work that she has done for the Lents community. And I know that she will remain in touch, and she still wants to be involved and help us do good work in the community. With that, our first item on the agenda is approving the minutes. Jean has posted the link, and I will repost it for anyone who just joined. Again, I will attempt to share my screen. And these are the minutes from the previous board meeting. They're also posted on our website. So again, I'm sharing my screen here, and then they're also in your chat. So since these have been posted on our website, I think most people have reviewed them, but even if you haven't, you have some time right now. I'm going to make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from the board meeting on May 13, 2021.
I'll second.
It looks like a dog is seconding too.
That's true, V. She's very angry with her food right now. Sorry about that.
So we're not voting yet. Just wanted to see if there's any discussion, if anyone wanted to note anything about the minutes.
I will say that with the help of several of y'all, I did close my action items, which was to reach out to Gail to find out more about the East Portland Resiliency Coalition and the stipend that she had mentioned for being a signed member does go to the organization, not necessarily an individual. So that was a clarification I think we wanted before we presented to the general membership, because that added a potential conflict of interest if the LNA wanted to get involved. So the clarification is that stipend is intended for the organization, not necessarily for the individual that participates on behalf of the organization.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you for looking into that.
Well, thank you and Jennifer for helping me out with that, because I certainly dropped the ball a little bit in between. So I appreciate it.
Okay. If no one has any other things to note or questions or anything, then let's call to vote. If you are in favor of approving these minutes and posting them as they are, please type yes in the chat. If no, type no. If you abstain, type abstain. Okay, Nicole, I think you're the only one who hasn't voted.
Oh, sorry. I thought I voted, but I might not have. But yes, I approve. I can put it in the chat too.
Okay,
She sent it to me direct by accident.
Oh, okay, okay.
You're
Sorry.
not crazy.
And that happens to me all the time as well. And I will also note that for the record, we still have the minimum number of members needed for the board, even with Jennifer's resignation. We have 7 members right now. Jason, Natalie, Gerald, Sabina, Jean, Morgan, and Nicole. And we do have a quorum tonight. So we have 5 yeses, 0 abstentions. The motion to pass the minutes has passed. So good job. First successful action item tonight. Okay, I can stop sharing my screen. Next on the agenda, we have a discussion about the LNA bylaws. So just to refresh everyone's memory, a couple of years ago, I think it's been already, we did, the current board at the time did a community involvement process and had about 4 to 6 meetings. They're documented somewhere, where we revised our old bylaws that haven't been updated in many years. We revised them based on new things that we've learned from our experiences as board members, as well as input we received from community members about how that guiding document can help us, can help make life easier for us as volunteers, can also help us do better work in the community, can help us involve more voices, and just keep us on track. And thank you, Jean, for posting in the comments the latest bylaw document. And the next step would have been to for the board to vote on it, and then to for the membership to also vote on it and approve it. We got a little sidetracked with that process, but those bylaws still exist, and I know that it's been high on the list of priorities for the current board, and we also have learned so much more since then about what serves us and what could be improved. And also, the bureau that manages neighborhood associations has gone through so many changes since then as well. So yeah, we have a lot of new information that can help make that document a lot better. So with that, I know that we've been talking about the bylaws for a while, and some folks are more eager than others to get to work on these. And so what I think we want to do next is the current board to get together and have a work session with the proposed document and see what input they might want to provide. And then after that session, then publish that proposed document, that we can come behind as a board in a unified fashion, and offer it to the community. And then we can go through the process of approving the document. And as an anticipated timeline, I think it's fair to say everyone would like to see this document implemented before the next elections, which are typically in September. We're in June now, so if we can have a work session later this month or early next month, I think that should give us enough time. So with that, I think, I think the action item here would be to vote to have a work session for the current board to work on these bylaws. Jean, I see you have your hand up.
Awesome. Yeah, sorry. This is about to set off the dog alarm. Okay. Sorry. So I did want to bring up that we talked about the bylaws for voting in January of this year. So that was probably our second meeting. Sorry, this is too loud.
Jean has paused her microphone while she waits for her dog to just settle down a little bit. Oh,
They're too excited about my neighbor. Okay, so they're calm now. Sort of. Okay, so yeah, I just wanted to say, as we had in the last general meeting, I think Schultz had brought up the past board revisions. And so that was a reminder. I did look back through our notes and we did discuss them briefly in January. So I did want to say, definitely support this. I think one of the things that we had sort of chatted about casually was a lot of those changes were made before our time. So making sure that we break them down. I'd like to look at using sort of like a track changes on Microsoft Word approach so that people can clearly see what language was changed, and we can print that to PDF with both the 2014 approved bylaws as well as the updates on them. And then I think part of that working session can potentially be segmenting those changes into sections to vote on, just to kind of make it a little bit easier to think through what the deltas are and then understand what that means for the overall big picture. So yeah, I would also agree that I think we need to have a specific work session on that topic.
okay. So let's see, who are we missing tonight? Let me just check on, since we're missing a couple of board members, I know Natalie is with the kiddos because it's I think the last school night of the year, and Jason messaged me, he can't make it tonight. I think it would be best to decide the actual date since it's a logistics item through email, but can we take a vote right now on, I guess I move to have a board retreat work session to discuss the bylaws. Yeah, and to come up with a proposed draft to present to the membership ahead of a general membership meeting, not the next one, and with the date to be discussed through email.
I'll second that motion.
And I'm gonna call it a board retreat.
I don't know how people feel about the COVID and the vaccinations, but I think this is an important topic that could be well configured to meeting in person and kind of being able to parse out the document if other folks are open to it. If not, Zoom works as well.
Yeah, I mean, we can chat about those logistics through email about like people's level of comfort. I know several of us, myself included, are fully vaccinated. So an outdoor session could be appropriate if amongst like vaccinated folks, but also happy to still do it through Zoom just to kind of be the safest that we can be if not everyone is comfortable or fully vaccinated at this point. But I think if we can aim to have it by the end of the month, that would be helpful. Okay, let's see who still needs to vote. So Nicole voted, Jean voted, I voted, Morgan voted, Gerald. Are you in favor of a board meeting to discuss the bylaws? Gerald says yes. So at this point, I think we have 5 yeses, no no's, no abstention, motion carries. To do item is to follow up and schedule that meeting. Okay, next on the agenda is the topic of a next general meeting. So after the success of the cleanup that we had in May, there's been some discussion and requests that we do at least that we do more. And so we've already kind of started talking about doing another one. And since we don't have any major topics or requests coming up here in June, I would like to propose that we again, much like we did in April. Yeah, April. Thank you. We turn in the next general meeting, so the one that's in at the end of this month in June, into another community building event, being another cleanup. And we actually could we could do both if we wanted to, meaning on the day of the cleanup, we can have that count as the general meeting, you know, if we are doing some items like approving minutes and doing a treasurer report, things like that, and then doing this community building activity, it can count as a meeting. We've been told. But or we can just, you know, like I said, pause for this month and then have the activity in July, and then have another general meeting in July again. Jean.
Okay, sorry, a couple updates for folks. So full disclosure, I jumped the gun, which was my fault. And we discussed the cleanup that we had in May at the Clean and Green Action Team a couple of weeks ago, which is one of the Mayor Wheeler's action tables. And I think while I should have gotten permission from this group, so I apologize for that, I guess retroactively, we did get some contact information via Solve, both Solve, PBOT, and Ground Score for assistance for future cleanups. So I would be in favor of working another cleanup event to kind of test that relationship building. Solve specifically had said that they did have funding available for cleanups. PBOT had offered their parking lot since the cleanup that we had in May benefited the TriMet station specifically. And then Ground Score was interested in partnering for a future meeting. So I think that would require a 3-week lead time, which might miss our 4th week of June date, but we could certainly target a very late June or very early July timeline. So just, yeah, wanted to present that for full disclosure to this group.
Thank you for that disclosure. And I mean, it doesn't sound like any action was taken other than, you know, you attended a meeting and you've shared our work and you've received some offers for support. And as far as the scheduling date, I mean, it doesn't have to be, just because it would be potentially in place of a general membership meeting, it doesn't mean that it has to be on the same exact date. In fact, that would probably not be very helpful because it would be on a Tuesday, and a lot of people have caregiver responsibilities or work responsibilities in the middle of the week, especially at 7 p.m. So I think sometime in July would be good. Do the folks here have any preference on the date?
I think
A
July
weekend
20.
preferably.
Oh, sorry.
Gerald says a
Oh,
weekend.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're good.
July 24th was a date that was far enough out that we were thinking would be a good candidate. When we were just kind of batting around ideas with some of the folks that had helped plan the last meeting.
Okay. Nicole, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, I definitely think like late July is a little better just because, I mean, I think we're going to hit an issue with people taking vacations anytime in July or August that we plan an event. But obviously early July comes close to a holiday where we know people will be away. I would say, I don't know how important a physical like meeting is. The last cleanup seemed to last the whole day, so I'm not really sure that it's possible to do like anything else besides the actual cleanup at the day of, and I'm fine with that personally.
Yeah, it's true. I think we started at like 8 and we're still unloading at 4. So well, and the general meeting in July is on the 27th. So so if we do it on the 24th, it would be the weekend right before our general meeting. There's also the 17th, which would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks. So the 17th would be like 5 weeks from now. The 24th would be 6 weeks.
So solve requires at least 3 weeks, and so I could definitely make the 17th work. I believe I personally have a commitment that particular day, but that doesn't necessarily need to gate anything. I'm more than happy to do logistics.
Yeah, I mean, I'm good with the 24th. But
I did want to note that we did have an email request for some more Q&A time from the financial committee point of view. So I think that would be the only agenda request for a June general meeting at this point in time.
Yeah, and we can do that in July. But thank you for noting that. So, okay, let's see. I guess I move that we replace the June 2021 general membership meeting with another community building activity, namely a cleanup between our housed and unhoused neighbors, like we did in May. Oh, okay. Date to be determined through email. So another to-do item / action item after this is to find the right date. I see that Gerald and Nicole have both noted that they're not available on the 24th. So
I second the motion.
Nicole seconds my motion. Yes.
Can we put the motion in the chat?
I think it was there, but hold on.
I did. I typed in Sabina motions to replace the June 2021 general membership meeting with a community building activity, cleanup, date TBD. There were a couple comments. Nicole and Gerald are not available the 24th. I am not available the 17th, but I can absolutely support planning all the way up until that day.
Yeah, I see it now. My little app thing's wigging out on me, so stuff keeps disappearing. Thanks.
No problem. So I think we can call to vote. If you're in favor, type yes. If you're against, type no. Again, we haven't decided on the day. This is just to turn the general membership meeting into a community building activity / day of service in our community. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 yeses, no nos, no abstentions. Motion carries. Thank you, everyone. And so with that, discussion of upcoming election. We don't have anything super specific other than to update but I mean, we can have a discussion. To note that typically our elections are in September. Last year we voted because of the pandemic, we postponed it by a month. But this year we're planning on moving forward with the elections in September. It usually happens during a general membership meeting. We are not yet meeting in person, and that's typically how our elections have happened, including last year during the pandemic. We did a drive-through election last year, and we were able to announce vote counts that night and then certified the results a few weeks later. So I think that's probably the plan this year, unless we switch to in-person meetings by then. I know that in Multnomah County, where we are, the rules are, changing all the time. And at the end of this month in June, there might be even more relaxed rules around meeting in person. That doesn't mean that we have to, or that everyone's going to feel comfortable doing so. Jean, I see you have your hand up.
Do you know if we need to recruit a land use chair between now and September?
We should, yeah. I mean, certainly there is enough time between now and the election where we can.
Mm-hmm.
According to the bylaws, there comes a point with depending on when they resign. I think if it's like less than a month until the election, then no. But right now, yes, we should recruit land use chair if we have anyone. And the way it would work at this point, since we're in the middle of the year and it's not a regular election, the board would have to appoint someone, and then that decision would be ratified by the general membership if we were to find someone.
So basically, since we voted to replace the June meeting, we have essentially like 2 months to try to find somebody, and then the July general meeting would be potentially a vote for them to cover through September. So they would be voted in July.
Right. If the board appointed someone at the board meeting in July, then the general membership could ratify that decision at the general meeting in July.
Do we know, sorry, just cast of characters, how many positions are open for this September? I know this has like been very low on our radar recently, so hang on, I'm going to pull up the bylaws right now as well.
I don't know off of the top of my head. I know my position is up for election. I'm trying to think.
Sorry, the bylaws are loading slowly.
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head. I mean, I kind of know, but I don't want to say anything for certain um, because I'm not certain.
I guess, does anyone else have input on this topic as of right now?
Sorry, I was taking notes, but we're missing a transportation chair. Now we're missing Jennifer land use. And then for what is
So,
up,
yes.
because of how everything, because of the like the staggered words, my God, the terms, that's what I'm trying to say. People are actually, I'm actually up, even though I haven't served a 2-year term because I took over from another term. Does that make sense? So it looks like I'm up. Jason's up. Yeah.
Yeah, Nicole might be up because I don't remember. Nicole was. Did you run for a 2-year or 1 year?
Nicole's 2-year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Katie got the 1-year position and I took the 2-year. So there would be another 1 year in addition to Jason.
Yeah. Well, and it might be premature also. Part of why I don't want to make any kind of commitments right now is because in terms of what positions are up is because that might be impacted by the bylaws. So if we're going to be working on the bylaws and changing anything having to do with elections, that can be impacted. Surely, there's a minimum number of positions that have to be filled as a nonprofit, but that is different than also what is said in our bylaws. So that can change. I'm finishing up my second term. And according to the bylaws, I can't run again unless I'm nominated. However, I will not run again no matter what. I just don't have the time or the capacity at this point. So you can for sure count on my position being available.
Okay, so it sounds like pending potential bylaw votes, there may be a shift in what is open and required from election perspective. If that doesn't get voted in, then at least this is the current status of events. So, okay. That is useful. I guess one of my thoughts would be, I think it would behoove us, and maybe this will become a motion shortly, to potentially host like I don't know, like recruitment fair doesn't sound quite exactly right. But I would encourage potentially maybe some blog posts about the positions of the current board, what people's experiences have been, and posting those and publicizing those on our social media, just to kind of get people a flavor of what they could be signing up for and what is available. So actually, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion, and I will type this in the chat in a minute, Morgan. I'm going to motion for each of the current board members to author a blog post about their position responsibilities and I guess their impression or their feelings about being on the board of the LNA, to post to the LNA website as a recruitment tool or an informational tool at the very least for potential folks who are interested or may be interested in the upcoming roles and elections.
I second your motion.
Oh. Jinx, Sabina.
Sorry.
I'm typing this in right now about their responsibilities. And I think one of the big things, at least for me, is there's a lot of unknowns when you first come into this, especially since we don't currently have a lot of pass down in between boards. So I think this would be a nice way to tie in, current learnings for future folks as well as a recruitment tool. And to date. Perfect. Ideally, this would be posted before August if we have a September election. Sabina, did you second?
Yes, I did.
Okay, I will type that in the chat too.
I'm trying to find, there might be a document where,
Southeast Uplift has their training document that kind of generally describes the positions.
yeah, and we have that too. Just trying to find it right now. It's somewhere.
I have a page on the website.
Yeah, I know it's somewhere.
It's underneath about.
Oh, okay, cool. Oh yeah, right. We made it a permanent thing. That's why I can't find it. Actually, I'm going to share my screen because I want to recognize the good work, the amazing work that Morgan has been doing on our website. If you go under the About tab here, Morgan took some of the documents from the last election and turned them into permanent pages that are easily accessible at all times. Amazing. So you can see the first one, my internet's kind of slow, what the LNA board positions are with the description of each one. And then you can see there's the board members, the LNA bylaws. Morgan recently, it looks like, added the code of conduct. And then I see a page for LNA elections with FAQs, and these are largely based off of last year, but most of the information applies to this year. Thank you so much for doing that, Morgan. And then there's the board members page as well. And I see Morgan has updated other tabs as well. So thank you so much. And now I will also vote in the chat. Did we call a vote? You made a motion, but did we call to vote?
I don't think we called to vote yet, but
okay.
Call to vote.
Call to vote.
We are all exhausted. I just want to point that out. We're all very tired.
Sorry, I'm like eating in the background too. I apologize.
Nicole, I think you're the only one who hasn't voted. Yeah, I've had community meetings since 8 a.m. this morning. I don't know how that happened. But it's been a full. Yeah, let's see. Okay, I think we have 5 yeses, no no's, no abstentions, so the motion carries. And the motion was for current board members to author a blog post about their responsibilities and experience on the LNA board to date. And if you need help with that, please reach out to to do action item after this is to put this in an email to all the board members, since a couple of them are not present tonight, and so that they know to do this as well. And then please mention that if anyone needs help, I'd be happy to help. I'm sure Jean would too, with writing. It's Jean's motion, but I would say, 2 paragraphs or less, like maybe 1 paragraph about here's what I do in this role, and then another of my experience, what I've learned or how it's been, or why I recommend this position.
And also,
Okay.
if folks just want to email it to me, I can go ahead and post it on the website for them so they're not screwing around with WordPress if that's not their forte. That's totally cool.
Yes. We will rely on Morgan to post that. Because I will say, it's even as someone who is used to posting on our website, it can be challenging at times, like WordPress. The images get messed up a lot, especially if you're trying to post with a photo. I'm very thankful for Morgan's skills and time and attention to all of these things. Let's see. So let me go back to the agenda. Okay. So with that, we are now down to just committee updates. Communications Committee.
Sorry, no updates to date. We're still having trouble figuring out what login is behind the LNA account. So that's definitely something that we will have to deal with in order to kind of expand. But when we do figure that out, we will record it and make sure that that is able to be passed down and shared across the board.
Okay.
For Facebook, Jean?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
I actually want to address what's in the chat right now. Someone who is not invited to participate in this meeting posted something which I assume was inflammatory to suggest we are shirking our duties as board members by not addressing this here. I definitely think it's something that we can look at. I think crime is an issue that a lot of people have on the top of their minds. But I didn't want to go in. I don't know how this is being recorded or published because it is a public meeting. But yeah.
Okay. Let's see. I think can we move to the Finance Committee / Treasurer report? If you are available now, Gerald. If not, we can, if you need a moment, we can.
I do need a moment. I'm being summoned.
That's
Okay. So
okay. That's okay. What else could we, in terms of updates or committee updates? So we'd already talked about land use. Morgan, I don't want to put you on the spot, but did you want to give any update from the committee that I believe has yet to be named, that's about beautification of the neighborhood?
I've kind of chatted with a neighbor or two about it. Yeah.
No, that's okay.
We were talking about I want to look into who actually has jurisdiction over that little piece of that little triangle in front of that tattoo shop, kind of by Bella's there on Foster. That keeps getting mentioned. And so maybe we could talk to Bella's and maybe we could come up with some sort of beautification plan there if we're allowed to do so. That's kind of on the table. And I mean, a lot of this too, I kind of want to use this as a way of sort of, how they might tie into some of these cleanups as well, you know, kind of as a way of getting people involved, and because that's definitely fits. So, you know, if we've talked about sort of making them a little bit more like smaller scale in, you know, in the interim between huge cleanups. So maybe that's something else. I don't know. I'm just throwing ideas out there, but not a whole lot. Sorry.
Jean?
Okay, I wanted to update this group. So I had reached out to the Pearl District Neighborhood Association because they've had some very successful ongoing cleanups, as well as a trash can initiative that they've partnered with the city with, and got invited to the Pearl District Livability Committee meeting for their neighborhood. I thought it was very informative. It is very differently run than ours, and their participation is very different than ours. But I think one of the biggest impression I had was that I felt that their focus was specifically on influencing city council. And the reason I want to bring this up is because I I felt like that organization was looking at a different scale and a bigger picture than what we've been able to do historically as the Lents Neighborhood Association, in part due to kind of internal struggles. And I think I personally feel like I don't have the experience, and like part of being in this role has really helped me better understand how the city of Portland functions. And I just wanted to bring that up to this group here. Yeah, not to, my intention is not to fearmonger, but one of the things I heard in that meeting was that one of the neighborhood associations on that side of town had voted to basically write city council a letter specifically regarding Portland street response. And that was something, as a guest to that meeting, I felt like I couldn't necessarily comment at that point. And I did speak up at the end of the meeting to say, hey, I would advocate that your groups look to encourage the city council to expand programs, not relocate programs. But this really hit home for me, because the thing that it made me realize is that there could potentially be a lot of power and a lot of leverage to be harnessed as a neighborhood organization. But I think a lot of the things we get bogged down is the details and interpersonal squabbles. And I think that is crippling us as an organization and as a neighborhood and as a voice to be heard. So anyway, I would encourage other folks to, if you have the free time and the luxury of that, which I do understand as well is a privilege, to kind of check out some of the things other folks are doing and try to learn from other folks in places where they are successful. And I didn't intend it to be combative, and I genuinely had showed up there to try to learn, you know, how do we get $200,000 in funding to get more garbage cans in our neighborhood? But it was very eye-opening for me to hear that. And I wanted to share that with this group because I felt like it was an important thing to be aware of, in addition to kind of sort of the day-to-day I'm trying to go about the business of our group. So I've already spoken too long, but I wanted to share that as sort of a extracurricular but tangentially related to the LNA item. And as also something, as we think about how this organization looks moving forward and what opportunities or hindrances we have, I think looking to see how other organizations leverage their power and leverage their voices is a educational experience moving forward. So sorry, that was too long, but thanks.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that, and thank you for attending other meetings, other community organizing meetings to see how they do things, and then sharing that knowledge with us. We can't all be everywhere, and so when we do attend, I think it's very helpful if we share with each other. We're in the background here just running into some technical difficulties with accessing our bank account right now, but working on it.
Yeah, also, I honestly think Zoom is having some issues. They're doing a major update soon, and things are super weird on my end. So if you, like Nicole keeps saying things get sent to individuals. So if we start running into problems, just a heads up, I think it might be on Zoom's end.
That's
So
possible. The most recent Zoom meeting I was in prior to this one, the first 10 minutes of the meeting, it was just troubleshooting. Nothing was working as it should with who is host and with everyone's abilities and stuff. We had to take 10 minutes to figure out something that's usually routine.
yeah, things are just gone on my end. So I'm a little I'm trying to take very detailed notes in case I can't go back to a recording. So sorry for
Okay.
helping out.
Yeah. Okay.
Could I ask a little bit more about that meeting, Jean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I just feel like,
Okay, I'm sorry. Hang on a second. Schultz, you've been asked not to interrupt this meeting. You haven't been invited, and you're going to be removed because this isn't acceptable.
Yeah.
So,
and I mean, we could also make note for the record of the language being used and all that.
yes, I will be downloading the chat. But yes. Okay, sorry. Go ahead, Nicole.
yeah, I was just, I guess, I just think it's like a little naive to imply that, and this is no offense to Eugene at all, but like these people don't just like these people are further connected with this city. That's not why they just happen to get a $200,000, like they know how to play along.
Yep.
They, it's, and I don't think you're implying that we would want to do that, but like, yeah, I think maybe like exposing that more widely is really important. But beyond that, like, I'm personally not interested in playing along with Wheeler's politics to get $200,000 in trash cans for our neighborhood. We shouldn't have to do that. So yeah, I don't know, like maybe we could brainstorm up ways of like maybe collectively, if more neighborhood associations came together and said, listen, like this is what you're doing is not fair, it's not equitable. I don't know, maybe that could be an approach to how to have like a little more power in the situation.
I hear you, Nicole, and I think I agree with you. I think what was eye-opening to me was, and I agree with you, I think it's not necessarily like the neighborhood association in and of itself, but more, who's involved in it and what kinds of connections people have. And I think there is an inherent bias for, based on where you live, how many inherent connections you have. But I thought it was important to recognize that, in part because I think part of what that said to me is like there is a collective voice and there is power in a collective voice, and understanding that and leveraging that, even if we don't necessarily have the personal connections that other people have, is a mechanism and approach, right? And like I guess what was startling to me was, again, like asking for reallocation of resources across the city that I was personally a little offended by as a resident of Lents, but also kind of seeing that the big picture that other folks are looking at is really how do we influence millions of dollars across a city budget is a totally different scale versus I am arguing with you to get $100 to pay for, waste removal. And so I think, yeah, to me, that was kind of a realization. And maybe that's just me being naive, but I don't necessarily think, we all necessarily need to operate in the same ways, but I do think this is one of those like translational moments, right? Where I just want people to be aware that, there are other kinds of conversations being had and that can be had. And to provide like context on, is the, I guess, or a reframing of what kinds of things we want to be focusing on. And then if this organization is to stand long term, what ways are potentially beneficial to drive it to create bigger change, if that's what we want to do. And if not, that's fine too. I know I personally get a lot of gratification from picking up garbage on my block and knowing my direct neighbors. So yeah, I just wanted to point out that there is a delta there, and I felt it very, very drastically attending that other meeting. But I hear you, Nicole, and I agree with you in terms of, not everyone's approach works for everything or is necessarily the right approach.
Right. And I mean, you are right, though, that like engaging in multiple levels is important. And maybe I'm just not the person to do that. And maybe you are, so like if we're kind of all hitting different things, then that's, like that diversity of tactics is really important too.
Sorry, Nicole, I just want to say, I say diversity of tactics probably 5 times in a meeting with many people. So I totally get it. I hear what you're saying.
I'm just gonna, sorry.
Okay,
Sabina, do you mind if I take like 3 more minutes? I just wanted to address for the record what was written in the chat. Specifically, you folks are out of touch, you're too narrow-minded, and you can't handle it. Blah, 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 unethical bigots, erroneous on notes on the website. That's not funny. I think, Morgan, you take impeccable notes. We've also got all the videos posted for people to be able to interpret their own notes. And specifically, you suck, you bunch of bigots, go kick me out right now, LOL, is honestly offensive and makes me not want to be part of this organization. And I am saying this on the record and being emotional on the record because taking this kind of abuse is totally inappropriate. So yes, sorry, I am upset about this. I'm being upset about this on video because it sucks. And that really sucks coming from a neighbor, especially. Stuff.
Yeah, I mean, just because, we're meeting online and not in person, that doesn't, that's not permission for people to conduct themselves this way because, just kind of hide behind their keyboards and be so disrespectful to volunteers in our community who you've seen at the last meeting have been putting in hundreds of hours even for just one community event. And what Jean is referring to is just verbal abuse that is in the chat directed, I assume, at board members from a community member named, their screen name was Schultz. And who uses, demeaning and negative words and insults to harass us regularly in meetings, and tonight is no exception. Just because it's in the chat, it doesn't make it okay. As we've repeatedly stated, we consider chat to be speech, and it goes completely against our rules for engagement in general meetings, and it's certainly inappropriate in these board meetings too. And that individual was asked to stop one time. They received one warning in the chat and then they escalated, which is on par with the behavior we regularly see from this person. So I'm sorry for the way it's impacting community members and the way it impacts board members and our volunteers. It's certainly not okay.
I'd like to move to permanently ban Schultz from attending meetings of the LNA. I don't know if that's allowed, but I'm gonna just put it on the record. For multiple documented instances of harassment.
And that motion is seconded by Gerald, so we can have a discussion. An issue, I think that it's kind of an impediment in these instances where we're simply just trying to have conversations about how to best serve our community. An obstacle that we run into, or barrier in doing this work, is that according to city code and similar rules that our city council is bound by, where they have in city council meetings, they have to treat every interaction with a person as if it's the first one. So they can get harassed repeatedly and those people are still allowed to continue. We're kind of in a similar place, and we can't technically ban anyone from meetings. The spirit of that is, of course, meant to be positive, to foster a culture of inclusion. But at times that also gets abused, as we've seen tonight, and as we've seen many times. It seems to be, unfair to subject volunteers to repeated harassment, verbal abuse, threats, demeaning language, and much more, right? With no consequence. However, it is just kind of where we are right now. Like, the city is very much aware of what we're dealing with, and they're very much taking note to change it. I don't think that we are allowed to ban anyone, but there can be potentially other consequences, for sure. So yeah, Jean.
This person has directly told me that if I don't like it, I can just quit and no one will care except, and maybe anyone else on the board, which in and of itself was pretty freaking offensive to me. But again, I think when you juxtapose this with what you see other organizations of this type doing, I think that it's almost doubly offensive to me, right? Because you're not only attacking me personally and you're telling me to quit, but you're also saying that, my personal problem with you is so great that I would rather that this neighborhood not have a voice than have a voice at all. And to basically take our neighborhood association hostage in that way. And yeah, I guess I am tired of not saying anything about it. And I think it's a disservice to all 20,000 residents of Lents to basically force people, because of harassment, off a board where we're all trying to make sure that voices are heard. And I think whether or not you agree with the politics, I think it is important to make space to hear those voices. And I think we hear them a lot. We had that general meeting last month with Commissioner Hardesty, as well as the sheltered housing continuum. And there is a lot of dissent and different opinions on what the right decision is and the right choices in our community. And I think having a forum for that discussion is important, but I think when it becomes personal and when it's about forcing people to quit so that only your voice is heard, that's a problem. And that is a disservice to not just individuals who serve as board members, but to our entire community. Again, when you juxtapose how this goes versus how other people are leveraging their power and their voices to make decisions about millions of dollars that have implications on the entire city of Portland. And I think that's kind of part of the reason why I'm so upset tonight, is just kind of feeling pretty powerless, both against an individual, but also when you look at where we stand in the overall context of things.
Mhm. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I know this is really hard. And yeah, there is a lot. I mean, anyone could be watching this out of context or not knowing the full story in the background, but for those of us forced to deal with the stuff in the background, there is a lot of harassment and threats and stuff that happens that kind of put this in a different light than a simple, comment in the chat, what might seem like a simple comment in the chat. Morgan.
Hi, sorry. Yeah, I obviously I'm a part of this. I hear about this harassment and this stuff all the time. I write the minutes, I link to the instances. Another issue we have is that we have to treat every interaction with an individual as if it's our first. So whenever we come into a new meeting, if somebody is watching this out of context, they think, oh, it's just, he's just asking a question or something. But no, we've had emails, we've had interactions with him in other meetings. It's over and over and over again. I mean, you can go on the LNA YouTube and see all of this. So, it's really frustrating, and it makes it very difficult for those of us who are just trying to do cleanups. Like, we want to just clean things up and make things better for the neighborhood. I've said over and over again that I'm not in this for like personal, glory or anything like that. That's not what I'm doing this for. That's not what Jean's doing this for. That's not what Sabina does this for. And to be attacked repeatedly like this is just, it really makes you wonder why you're putting your time into this. It also eats into our time to deal with other things that, people might have legitimate concerns. And if we're, expending all this mental energy on having to deal with this harassment, it really does eat into your time for, community members who there might be a misunderstanding, or they might be, rightfully upset about something. It really does. We're not, and we say we're volunteers. Well, that's true, but not even if we were paid, no one should be treated like this. I want to make that very clear.
Yeah.
Like, sure, the hires up, the people who get paid, they may be paid to do this type of work, but they're not paid to be harassed. The city of Portland has an anti-harassment policy.
Mm-hmm.
We don't seem to follow under that. So,
right. So all that to say, we can vote, we take a vote on this. I don't think that it's an enforceable action just because of the limitations that we are dealing with. But we can still, just have a voice, I guess, and do it in that way. And I guess I'm also just wondering, as a tangent to this conversation, so that it makes it more clear where this is coming from, emotion like this. I guess I'm wondering how many of the board members have been made to feel afraid by this individual. I guess, and I don't know if you'll feel comfortable saying that, on the record or feel safe, because I know, yeah, but I know I have, so I will make that note.
I am married to a lovely white man, and felt like I had some privilege and protection there. And after discussion with my partner, we actually bought security cameras for this issue. So.
I have also bought security cameras for the same issue.
I'm sorry that you both feel this way because of this individual. It's not fair that a volunteer position should create you feeling a lack of safety in your own home. That's just really not okay.
Well, we can take a vote, I guess, call to vote on Nicole's motion. So Nicole made a motion. Nicole, would you like to restate your motion? Okay.
Sorry, I'm sorry, I'm on my phone, so everything's a little less easy to do. But yeah, I make a motion to ban Schultz from all LNA meetings, both board and general meetings. For, I guess I could, due to repeated harassment of board members.
Harassment, and I would say also verbal abuse. And then Gerald seconded the motion. So now we can call to vote.
And just to, I guess to add to it, because of what Jean said, that same sentiment was passed to me before about him saying if I do not like it, to quit. So again, I repeat this: his point, and it seems that his agenda is to harass members to get them to leave, so that he could himself be in charge of the board and run. Which is, I mean, it's kind of sad, but I don't think that that's productive at all, and I think that that should be noted.
Thank you, Gerald. And I'm sorry that you were treated that way as well.
I mean, I'm okay with retracting the motion if we don't want to vote for it, because it does sound like it's not something that could actually have any real effect. But I think that it's good to have it on the record and potentially, I mean, we all are aware of it. As soon as he comes in a meeting, we're just waiting for him to act out in the same ways that he does every meeting and then kick him out. So it's just like, I guess we can continue to do this, but at the same time, it's not fair for people to be abused. And if there's a pattern of abuse, I just don't, there has to be some recourse for that. And I don't know if it's that, I don't know what that is, but it feels like there needs to be some response to that.
Yeah, I definitely support the spirit of your motion. And, I'll note that there are plenty of people who disagree. We disagree with each other as board members on numerous topics. And there are also plenty of people who disagree with us as a board, or who disagree with us individually, and still find ways to engage that are healthy, constructive. Sometimes there's conflict, and that's okay, because we've generally been very interested in working through conflicts. Conflict can be healthy, it can be an opportunity to grow. And this board has supported, I'd say overall, we've supported dissent. We support an open forum. In fact, the rules that we have in place are so that more voices can engage, so that more people can feel safe engaging. When someone acts the way this person acts, it makes it unsafe for a lot of folks to engage. So, being open to more voices doesn't mean being open to receiving abuse. And so that's also, a fine line that we have to walk, and a boundary that we have to set. the same way that you know, free speech doesn't also include hate speech. So there's limitations to freedoms like that. Morgan, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, I would also say that free speech doesn't include freedom from consequences either. You don't just get to rant and rail and not expect people to push back. But I also would like to say just that this individual's behavior has been normalized for a long time. It's one of the things that I noticed when I first came on the board, and it's very frustrating. I feel like he's been pushing the boundaries for a while, and people have just sort of been allowing it. So I think that this motion is actually rather important. I do absolutely support the spirit of it. I know it's not enforceable, but I'm inclined to vote yes, just to be on record that, yeah, I think that this needs to stop. I'm not going to stand by and listen to my fellow board members be treated like this. This is ridiculous.
And I echo what Morgan has said. So that's my note in the chat, Jean. And then I think we have to move on.
Yeah, sorry. I think this is another thing when thinking about upcoming elections. Again, I think the neighborhood association as an organization and the way the city of Portland is currently structured is very important to have. But I think it would be hard pressed for me to recruit, in part because having to not just negotiate disagreement and conflict, but also negotiate sort of a very targeted negative behavior is problematic and not something I would want to inflict on other people. And I am happy going public on the record. I work for a private organization. I'm not afraid of someone threatening me for my license that I don't have. But that being said, like, I did feel like it was important for me to talk to my HR and let them know that this was something that, someone could come at me vindictively for. And again, I have the privilege of working for folks that, think I'm a good employee and aren't necessarily swayed by this kind of public accusation. But I do want to state that. And again, I want to state like that is an inhibition. And that's something I'm thinking about as we think through this election and this upcoming year. I think the vice chair position is open for election on even numbered years. So in theory, I have another term left. And I have very much enjoyed the work that we've done so far in terms of collaborating with groups, creating a forum for discussion. But this person will be successful in getting me to quit. In the sense that I don't think I have to put up with this. And honestly, I don't need to. And again, I think to me, what's very painful is that ultimately affects our neighborhood, that affects the people who are willing to volunteer to speak up for Lents. And again, that's basically taking our 20,000, 22,000 population neighborhood hostage because of individual behaviors and individual vindictive behavior. And yeah, it's a problem for me, and it's something that I feel like I need to be very realistic about recruiting with. And I think that person would say, well, that's just part of the job, get with it, honey, or whatever they would say. But I also don't think that's something you should have to deal with to be able to work with your neighbors, speak with your neighbors, and try to advocate to make sure resources are allocated fairly across the city.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing all that. So I'm just counting through the votes. We have 4 yeses and 1 abstention. So the motion carries. It's not necessarily enforceable, but it captures just kind of where we're at. And the fact that we don't have many tools to protect ourselves as volunteers against verbal abuse, harassment, and other things.
Name calling, bullying.
Bullying, threats. And, you know, I reject the notion that this comes with the job. I think that we should all want and expect better for our community and for ourselves. I disagree with many elected officials, and I disagree with community members, and I still would not threaten them or contact their employer or wish harm on them, or subject them to abuse. There are other ways that we can express and that the satisfaction, and it's what we've been trying to do too with our rules for engagement. We can, like, not personalizing negative feedback. We can disagree with someone's behavior or thoughts, or without threatening, demeaning, abusing that individual. There are ways. Plenty of people have found ways. Okay. Well, on that note, thank you for hanging in there, everyone. We're running into some technical difficulties, also with the logging into the bank account right now for the financial report. It usually it has all these verification systems, and it sends codes to different devices or emails or phones, and right now we can't seem to be able to retrieve that code wherever it went. So we're going to take a rain check on that, but a robust finance report has been posted to our website. And there was a robust finance report given at the general membership meeting in May, and we will be sure to have it at the next general meeting, as well as make room for comments or questions, as it seems we received a request for that. So just acknowledging all that. And with that, thank you. And I think I will end the meeting here.
Thanks, Sabina.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you for being here.
Oh,
Sorry, it was one of those.
yeah, I apologize. I'm tired of getting messages.
You do not need to be sorry. You do not need to apologize.
Were you getting also messages privately?
Not in this chat, but like, again, that whole Facebook event that happened a month ago was like,
I don't think I know about that.
So we had a communications committee meeting, the April communications committee meeting, which is posted to YouTube, where we had Diane Riley in actually to talk about instead of the mediation services that Office of Community and Civic Life used to host, they have started the basically like de-escalation training. And there was a little bit of discussion there, which if you watch the video, you can see where it was, oh, I'm de-escalation trained. But it's hard when it applies to you in person. And I think part of being an adult and part of being a professional in whatever that means to you is being able to step back. And again, I sound very emotional right now because I am. So maybe, you could accuse me of being unprofessional here. But I think, part of being part of a civic discourse is basically being able to step back from things and say, hey, like my emotions are getting in the way, and they are here. But at the same time, while I do feel emotional, I also feel very strongly that I'm pretty tired of this. And anyway, following that meeting, there was a message sent to the Lents Neighborhood Association Facebook, which was basically several messages, but one of the notes that stuck out to me was, if you don't like this, feel free to quit, which I had originally actually taken as a threat, because I thought when I had read the message quickly, I had interpreted it as, no one will notice if you go missing, which was not technically what the language said. But I mean, the spirit is there. And when you read in the chat what was posted today, like, it's the same exact thing. It's, I will continue to harass you until you leave. And again, I think for me, a lot of this is coming out of like having been to this other neighborhood association where they're actively advocating for resources to be allocated out of our community to a different community. And to know that that wouldn't be known to our community without people volunteering their time, trying to information seek, trying to understand, we see these successful things happen in other places. How do we make that happen here? And to also know that conversely, we have people from our own community who are trying to actively dismantle, actively discourage voices from being heard, is very upsetting to me. And so, yeah, just I think today really triggered it for me, because this is the second time I've been basically told, quit if you can't take it. But I also really think it's inappropriate. And I think it's important for people to know that it's a disservice to our entire community. And I think part of the reason engagement is low, and I'm constantly being accused in communication meetings, engagement is low. You guys don't like hold yourselves to your own standards. Having actively heard from other people, friends I have who are neighbors in the community, who say, we don't go to these meetings because we don't like to be abused and we don't want to hear this. And so our voice is not being heard because we're actively removing ourselves from that situation. Is upsetting and is offensive. So anyway, sorry. Like I said, trying to be grown up and reel in the emotions here, but I guess I don't have a public job. So, if you want to complain to my boss that I was mean to you on the internet through something not affiliated with my work, my boss doesn't care. And I have already established that with them. And so I guess I feel like I want to say something at this point, because I am in that position of privilege where I'm not going to get fired for, causing somebody to be upset who is abusing us and who is actively discouraging people from participating in public civil discourse, and actively causing advocates for our community to be lost and causing other organizations to have their voices be heard to reallocate funds out of Lents. Yeah, sorry, I've talked way too much in this meeting, but very, very angry about that.
Sometimes you got to talk. It's fine. You didn't talk to me. No.
Yeah, I have a lot to say, but I don't feel safe speaking up most of the time. So,
All right. Let's
and I have to go pick up my.
We adjourned the meeting. I think it's fine. Anyway, I'm sorry.
Oh, good. No, I support you. Yeah.
Thank you all. I think this was a productive meeting. Excited to look at bylaws with y'all, break it up so that people can vote on individual sections. I think that'll be really important for the organization moving forward and like actually being effective. Really excited to plan another cleanup, try to leverage some of those connections we made, see if, Solve will actually pay for trash instead of getting credit via the news and, pictures in the media. So excited to actually make change with you folks. Thank you for letting me be emotional on this call. Have a great night, y'all.
Absolutely.
Take care of yourself, Jean.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
I'm here if anyone wants to further talk about anything. Not right now, this second, because I have to go pick up my kid, but I'm available tonight and tomorrow. Bye all.
Bye-bye.